What is up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Dense Pixel Podcast. I'm your host, Brad, joined by my co-host, Micah.
Hey.
Micah, we have a big news story to start off the show, but before we do that, since you were not here last week's episode, and you probably already talked about this on the Nerdpocalypse, please just 2 minutes on your taking your temperature on the Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom announcement.
Yeah, I went through the 5 stages of grief, and I described it on the Nerdpocalypse in detail. But much like grief, you come out the other side and you realize that everything is going to be okay. It wasn't my first choice, but at the same time, like, I don't make casting decisions, and every casting decision that company has made that I thought, I don't know if this is going to work, has worked. So, we'll see. As long as he's not playing a Tony Stark variant, like if he's just playing a Victor Von Doom, I won't have a problem with it. If he's playing a Tony Stark variant and people are like, oh, I can't wait for Spider-Man to see his face. Well, I'd be kind of pissed about that because, like, Dr. Doom is supposed to, like, keep that mask on, and he's supposed to have a disfigured face. So, we'll see. Look, he's not going to be, I said this on the Apocalypse, he's not going to have the goatee, and he's not going to be bebopping and scatting about shawarma, right? Like, he's playing a different character. So, is a little desperate? Yes. But, you know what? I'm over the angry phase, and not angry, but like, what? The mass confusion phase. And I'm feeling hopeful.
I mean, I think this is just their, like, them going all in on making sure that the third time's the charm for the Fantastic Four, right? Like this.
I mean, it can't get any worse than what we got previously.
So, true. True. So, all right, let's get into the big story of the week. Of course, you probably have heard it. It was making all the rounds last week, but Bungie has laid off 220 staff members, which is about 17% of its current workforce. And in addition to that, an additional 155 people are now in the process of moving from Bungie and integrating into Sony. And this has kind of had a whole lot of knock-on effects. It's a pretty wide-ranging story. The high level of this is that basically it sure seems like that Bungie as a studio is losing its autonomy that it previously enjoyed under PlayStation, and that it's basically going to just be another Sony studio, same as all the other Sony studios that are currently out there right now. And the reasons for this happening are myriad. Your knee-jerk reaction is to probably blame Sony in some way, shape, or form for this. But as it turns out, Sony's probably not very much to blame for this, and we'll kind of explain why as we go through the different news around this. The big villain seemingly around this whole story is Bungie. I think his title there is general manager. I don't know if it's that, vice president, whatever it is. But Pete Parsons. Pete Parsons, who is a relatively well-known figure at Bungie and kind of heads up that studio, is kind of being framed as the bad guy in this entire scenario. And for those that don't recall, this is actually Bungie's second round of layoffs in just over a year, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And also remember that when Sony purchased the studio for $3+ billion, they specifically earmarked over $1 billion of that money to specifically for the purposes of employee retention and like employee bonuses and stuff like that to ward off stuff like this happening, essentially. And so now they've gone from originally, obviously they're still working on Destiny 2. To what degree we don't know right now with the release of the Final Shape expansion. Marathon is now kind of like the big focus for that studio right now. And apparently they had a third project in the pipeline that was codenamed Payback that rumored was supposed to be an action game set in the Destiny universe, but it wasn't like a first person like open world shared space shooter like Destiny is. But that project has now been cut off the table. And as a result of that, two major names from Bungie, Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy, both of whom were integral in the development and the promotion of the Destiny franchise, have both left the company. It's not clear if they were part of the layoffs or if they decided to leave based on the management structure, but they were the ones that were heading up this third project that Bungie was working on. So before we start digging into the nitty gritty, just kind of like your knee jerk reaction, because I know Bungie is a studio that we kind of respect a lot. You and I were big Destiny fans, played a lot of Destiny for a really long period of time, and I speaking for myself, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for you here as well, still have a fondness, like a place in our heart for that franchise, even though we don't, generally play it anymore. This was really shitty though when I heard it. Like this one hit me for some reason harder than a lot of the other industry layoffs have.
Yeah, because Destiny is the little company that could, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they were able to stave off, one evil corporation and kind of, be independent for a little bit. And then like the thing that kind of always happens when people start companies, like I won't say it's the goal, but some people when they start these companies, like they I mean their goal, they aspire to get bought by a bigger company.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And and it's usually the people who started and they kind of get, I don't know if they get like disillusioned with creating art or money just kind of takes over and it's just like, yo, this is a lot of money. I need $2.4 million worth of classic cars, right? And and if being bought up by this big company is gonna let me get it, then yeah, like let's go, right? Like it's hard to turn down a big lump sum of money. And especially if you're not like doing the day-to-day stuff. And if you don't and that's what sucks, man, is that the people in those developers and I don't know those people, but every like and I know it's marketing, but every like little marketing thing that I saw regarding Destiny, like those people seem to be really into it. And for
Mm-hmm.
some reason it worked on me. I bought it. I believe them. And it just it just sucks, man. It really sucks. Like this one, like you said, it hits a little harder because we were all rooting for you, like that Tyra Banks meme, right? And yeah, man. And and it happens to every to unfortunately it happens to a whole lot of corporations,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just it's just how capitalism works, and especially in this country, man. And I get it, but at the same time, it's still sad. It's still sad. Like the only other studio that I think this would hit harder for is like Larian.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
It's
I don't know, man. It just
I
sucks.
I like the point that you kind of made where it's like when, especially in management, it seems like the goal is to just, build this thing, sell it to the biggest buyer, and then, pull the ripcord so that you can parachute out with a shitload of money and then create the next thing to be sold,
Mhm.
right? Like that always seems to be the way. Um and it's really obnoxious because, the people that are usually the ones steering the ship are the ones who just kind of look at these things as a commodity. And maybe it's naive to not look at them as a commodity in this day and age, to look at these companies like that. But for the rank and file, the people that are actually affected, by stuff like this that happens. I mean, yeah, like it's not like they do this shit for free. Like obviously, like they want a paycheck and they want to be able to support themselves. But I think that there's an extra something about like it's cool to work for Bungie, and it means something to work for the studio that made Halo and the studio that made Destiny and all that jazz as well.
And
And
yeah, they
like I
get a
said, they're
paycheck, but they also don't get a say. You know what I
right,
mean? Like,
and like I said, they're the ones that bear the brunt. Pete Parsons isn't going
right,
anywhere, even though
right.
even though he's arguably the reason why we led here, and the reason that I kind of segue into that. Basically, when Bungie kind of sold themselves to PlayStation, which something Pete Parsons was obviously heavily involved with as the studio's general manager, essentially they overstated the financial prospects that Bungie had coming in. And this is courtesy of Stephen Totillo, from his Game File newsletter. But even apparently, if the recent Final Shape expansion had been like a fucking blockbuster, like 10 million copies sold, that kind of thing, and brought back a sustained base of players back to the game for a long period of time, which it didn't. Like, it did well, but it didn't, it hasn't retained players, long term and that sort of thing after they got through that first like month of release, essentially. That these cuts would have had to happen anyway, because Bungie has continually missed the financial targets that they promised to Sony. And basically the message from Sony has been like, hey, when we spent $3 billion on this studio, like these are the financial, goals that you promised us. And if you don't show that you're taking, the finances of the company seriously, we might, we're going to look for new leadership. We're going to, we might have to, tail off the studio's autonomy a little bit. And so like the leaders are like, well, we can't fucking leave. We're the straws that stir the drink around here. Like, we got to make sure that we stay in charge. And so they went into like crazy cost cutting mode, basically, in order to try to hang on to this stuff as much as possible. And the blame from the employee standpoint lies solely on Pete Parsons for the most part, because now in the wake of this, you have both former and current employees getting on social media, like publicly blasting Pete Parsons. DMG, who is the global community lead for Bungie, he called them, still current, like it's not, he wasn't part of these layoffs, called the move, quote, inexcusable, industry-leading talent being lost yet again, accountability falling upon the workers who have pushed the needle to deliver for our community time and time again. A UX designer named Ash Duong said, I'm safe, but I'm fucking enraged. This is hitting people who were told they were valued, that they were important, that they were critical to business success, but none of that mattered at all. Basically, even fans like you and I both are aware of My Name is Bife, like the lore daddy for Destiny 2. He put a really harsh post out there on Twitter talking about leadership at the studio needs to be changed. The decisions that they made have constantly led to disaster for people that have been making the games that we play. They've treated the studio recklessly with both the employees and the franchises, and the problem is clear. It's bad leadership that is stemming this. And we talk about this all the time, that like the CEOs, the managers who are making these decisions are never the ones to pay the price. Or even if they do pay the price, they get a fantastic golden parachute to drop out of the plane with, essentially.
Yeah, man. Look, I listened to a couple of financial podcasts, and one thing that one guy, he's like, look, as someone running a business, kind of have to be slow to hire and quick to fire if you want to sustain a business. But he's describing like a fledgling business,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's not describing, uh, he's not describing this. And it would be bad. It would still be bad. But like, don't pay me a bunch of lip service
Mm-hmm.
and tell me that if it was like clinical, if it was more clinical, and if it was just like, hey, when you go into a retail job in December and they're like, look, we trying you out because we need help and we might keep you, we might not.
Mhm.
And you are okay with that? Fine. But like I don't know, man. It just everything about it is scummy. Everything about it is real scummy. And I get it. I get it. I'm not naive to think that corporations owe people um they do owe you a living wage and uh um the ability to live your life outside of the company, right? But I don't know, man. It just I'm just so fucking pissed.
Well, and it
'Cause
doesn't help. And the reason that Pete Parsons specifically has been really framed negatively in this. So in the wake of this of the stories of these layoffs, um, basically Pete Parson has done the dumb thing of letting a lot of his shit, like, you know how sometimes people let their Venmo history be public, and that gets people in trouble. Well, Pete Parsons has an account on a website called Bring a Trailer, which is basically a classic car buying website where you can list and purchase classic cars. And Pete Parsons has been getting busy, according to his public profile on Bring a Trailer. Basically, on the website so far, he has spent over $2.4 million in buying classic cars, including $79,000 on a vehicle right before the previous round of layoffs, 91.5 on a C1 early a couple months ago in June of this year. Um, and so it's just not a good look. And there's a story from Liana Rupert, who was part of the um initial round of layoffs last year, where basically she was getting by working at Bungie, and then Parsons was talking to a group of people there and was like, oh, like, you should come to my house and check out my car collection, like, it's freaking awesome. And then 2 days later was when the first round of layoffs happened at Bungie. So and of course he had to know that at the
how
time.
fucking obnoxious.
Yeah, but you're going around, like, hey, like, look at all these fucking cars that I own. Isn't this fucking great? And again, like, I don't give a shit how Pete Parsons spends his money. Like, I really couldn't care less. It's none of my fucking business. If he has the money, he can spend it however he wants. But it just, like I said, it makes you look like an out of touch, cynical piece of shit when you're kind of flagrantly, putting this shit out there.
You're flaunting your wealth in front of people,
Right.
even if they weren't getting laid off. It's still a fucking asshole move, bro. Like, what the fuck? Like, bro, come over here and see my vintage car collection. What the fuck? Fuck you, dude. I don't want to hang out with my boss to see all the cool shit he has that I don't. What the fuck? Be like Jay. Don't tell us that we're not getting paid. Don't tell us that you're embezzling funds and not paying us. Meanwhile, you move internationally, right? Just keep it on the down low. That's it. Yo, it's so fucking obnoxious, man. Like, god damn.
Yeah.
Like, I is it do you think that people are when you was he always like this? Right? Or do you think well, he has money now and then money changes you? Like, cuz I know money changes you.
I
But
mean, let me
I
look
would
at Pete
never I would
Parsons'
never
job history, because he wasn't an OG. Like, he came to Bungie, I think, during the Activision era. So let me see what he did before this, because it does seem like that he is a money change me kind of fucking guy, right? Okay,
eh,
so he used to work for Microsoft. He was an executive producer, and a studio manager, and so basically, I think he oversaw Bungie, while they were developing Halo at Microsoft, and then he joined Bungie when they went independent, basically.
Mm.
So that's kind of what happened there. It looks like so this dude's probably had money for a while. So he's just probably an asshole. Maybe that's just what it is. He's probably just a dick.
It's so wild to just be out of touch. Like to just be completely out of touch with the rest of humanity, bro. Like I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, I get that. I get the game we're playing, right? I get the whole capitalism game. I get it. And until somebody tells me that the rules have changed and we're playing a new game, I get it, right? I right, I do. But yo, I'm not gonna be at least I'm not gonna be a dick about it, man.
Yeah.
Like, god damn. Like, I'm not even saying you gotta like, I'm not even saying you gotta like. It would be nice if you didn't get paid as much, but like, I'm not saying you gotta give away your money, right? Because Lord knows I'm not giving away my money unless like people like, really, but like, who really needs my money, right? But I'm saying like you gotta at least at least like show a bit of like pretend to be sad.
Right.
Pretend to be sad. I don't know, man.
It's nuts. So
Be like them Japanese developers that
no, cutting their salaries
yeah, they just
when
cut
they
their
miss
salaries. Man. Yeah,
I mean
man.
this
Like
but again, case in point, here's why we fucking need unionization, because the Pete Parsons of the world can play with, their 1,000 employees like they're playing with checkers essentially, and if they lose a couple, no big deal, as long as they're winning the game overall. And the employees are the ones getting screwed. Now it's not like they kick these folks out the door and are cut them off at the stop. Like they're going to get severance and all that jazz as well. But as we know, because of what the industry is going through right now, it's a tough job market if you want to stay in video games. Also, any bonuses that they would have gotten from the Sony purchase still have not vested yet. So all these people that were with the company before that happened, they're not going to get the benefits of that, because they're not going to be there when those bonuses and when those payouts vest to current employees of the company. So they're kind of losing out on that as well. It's like I said, it just continues to be really shitty all around. From the gaming side of things, again, like Destiny 2 is in a weird spot. We just had the big expansion and the culmination of the fucking 10-year arc that they promised. So the game's not necessarily going to a maintenance mode, but they're not going to be putting out content in the same way that they were previously. We don't know if we're getting like another big tentpole expansion next year or the direction of the franchise. And right now, all of the chips are being pushed on the table to Marathon, which, extraction shooters are definitely on the come up, but it's
is that
still
what
kind
this
of
is?
that is what Marathon is. It's a PvE extraction shooter. But that's still a niche genre. That's still a bit like
Yeah,
that has not
man.
had its moment the same way that like battle royales and stuff like that have had. So like if Marathon's not a huge success, I shudder to think the direction that the studio might head in, essentially. So
I get really upset because not I'd be upset if this didn't happen to me, but I have been let go from a job before. And while I didn't like that job, like I needed that job.
mhm.
And because people need to work. And it's doubly sad that like these people probably enjoyed their work, but like people need to work. And I've been unemployed and I've had to collect benefits and stuff like that. Yo, it's not a good feeling. It just isn't. And most people who have to have that happen, most people who have to collect benefits, it's not this like Reagan style welfare queen bullshit. It's not, yo. It's humiliating. It's humiliating. And it's sad and it's scary. That's why I get so pissed when I see all these people in this industry being taken advantage of, quite
Mhm.
frankly. Because like everyone who has grown up and who says I want to be a game developer? Only people who play video games and love them. want to make them because it's very, very difficult work. And to be like, it just makes me so fucking mad,
Yeah.
man. God damn it.
But again, I guarantee you that talks of unionization, if they weren't already started at Bungie, probably
Yeah, man.
are happening a lot more now. So, you reap what you sow. I hope Pete Parson and the rest of the leadership staff there appreciates what's coming. And look, if I were them too, like, I would imagine that Luke Smith and or Mark Noseworthy are going to end up somewhere and taking that germ of an idea that they have for this, this payback game, and developing it somewhere where they have the freedom to do that. And don't be surprised if they poach off a lot of talent from Bungie as well, because I'm guarantee you that a lot of those developers have more loyalty to those guys than they would to anyone at Bungie or Sony. So just a really fucking awful piece of news last week that kind of dominated the cycle. But we'll see what happens from there. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back with some more news. Mike, I apologize. It's kind of a shitty news week all the way around this week. Like the hits aren't going to stop coming here. This one is, to me, kind of a funny story, and I had an epiphany listening to the Remap Radio podcast, their reaction to this news, and I kind of agree with their take on it. So basically, on an investor call last week, Andrew Wilson, the CEO of Electronic Arts, said that the very successful recent release College Football 25 could not have been made without developers utilizing machine learning and AI-powered technology. He remarked that creating 150 unique stadiums and 11,000 player likenesses couldn't be done without EA's deep history of being a technology leader and by our incredibly passionate and talented teams harnessing the power of AI and machine learning. Now, essentially, what we have here is Andrew Wilson saying, hey, like, the facial generation with a lot of these players, like, had to be done with AI because, like, there's no way that artists were going to be able to make, 11,000 unique player heads for the game that are in, like, the profile pictures and stuff like that. Now, if you talk to people that have played College Football 25, as soon as they heard this news, they were like, oh, we could tell that AI was responsible for a lot of the player head generation in this game. It's pretty apparent. But here's the interesting thing. It's not as if this is a new phenomenon in the arena of sports games. Because I remember when I used to play the NCAA games and the Madden games back in like the mid-aughts, the mid-noughties, when you're playing like a franchise mode. Eventually, like when you bring in new players to the league, when you draft players and in college football, when you get new recruits, you are getting computer generated players that the game itself is generating, complete with facial like a facial profile and looks that are generated by the computer. This isn't new. Like, it might be a little bit more fancy with a machine learning and stuff like that. But this isn't like a wholesale, like, holy shit, like, Eureka, we've done it. We've cracked the Da Vinci Code and finally figured out how to make all these players. Like, no, like, look, the game's done this for a really long time.
Yeah. In any given year, EA will develop about 500 to 1,000 star heads. So I'm assuming that's like marquee players, right?
Right.
The 11,000 that were needed to represent the players in College Football 25 was a much bigger challenge. Quote, in the absence of AI, we simply would not have been able to deliver college football at the level we did, even though we've given the team many, many years in development. It was made because we were really building the franchise for the future. It was the first time we had done it in 10 years, and the level of gameplay and the level of visual fidelity that we need, that we did, was a combination of many years. All right. He sounds like an AI. He sounds like,
and the fact that that these comments are being made on an investor call is very illuminating. I'm beginning to think that the proliferation of AI in the gaming space is a lot less scary. Not to say that we should ignore it, but a lot less scary than we think, and a lot more of like executives just need the new thing to sell to the investor group, so that people continue to pour their money, because investors are dumb. Like they don't all like they hear about AI and generative learning and stuff like that on like the tech sites and in the Wall Street Journal. And so like when they hear a CEO talk about it, they're like, oh, this guy's with it. Like this company's with it. This company knows what's up. Like they're on the ground floor with all these future looking technologies. Like this is the place to be. This is the place where we need to put our money to invest.
Yeah, man. Like all you need to do is use a bunch of 3-syllable words, and you could literally. What's your favorite word, Brad? You could literally go and you can be like, we are going to deliver the most cromulent college football game ever. Oh my God. Take my money, please.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
We are embiggening the sports video game landscape with the moves that we are making, leveraging machine learning and generative AI to heights that we've never seen before, so that we can really dial in the gameplay to like it's all fucking bullshit, man. And again, look, like AI still has a lot of legitimate concerns. We talked last week about the SAG-AFTRA strike. Like AI and voice acting especially is an area of concern, because one thing that AI is really good at is taking like an existing voice catalog and generating new voice work from that catalog that sounds like the person. Like AI is really good at doing shit like that. So like, yeah, you have to watch out for it. But like I think the fear that like all of a sudden AI is gonna be building these milquetoast video games might be a little unfounded with the technology where it's currently at, and a lot of it's just selling it to fucking C-suite guys and doing shit just to get more money in. Because I mean, even Andrew Wilson probably knows that he was full of shit when he was talking through this stuff on this.
I mean, he's a professional like bullshitter. He's an executive, right?
Right.
Like you gotta learn that speak, right? You gotta sell shit. I work with a guy. He does all the talking when it comes to like trying to sell shit. He's one of those like, okay, well, we'll circle back around to like he's that guy.
I tease someone I work with for abusing the phrase "circle back" all the time.
Well, let's take a look at this. Let me give you the 30,000-foot view of this.
Oh, see, I use that one at work. I can't.
Nah. Get out of here. Overview. Okay, that was a 30,000-foot view. You can't see shit from 30,000 feet in the air. God damn it!
You see clouds. You're surrounded by them. So. Oh, I think those of us that work in office settings are all guilty of a little bit of corporate buzz.
Like I get it. Look, I'm teasing. I get it, right? I do it all the time.
What's yours? What's your go-to line at work?
Oh man, what is my go-to line? It's usually something about having to kind of get back with you. I'll investigate and get back to you, or some bullshit when I don't have an answer. Because like people ask me shit, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like let me look it up, right? But I can't say that. So I'm a big follow up guy.
There you go.
I'll follow up. I'll follow up. I'll follow up and get back to you. Let me investigate. I'll follow up and get back. That's usually my thing. But that's when I'm panicking. I don't have the fucking answer.
Oh my God, there's a light bulb out. Someone you get it. Oh no. We gotta follow up. Oh my goodness. So if you thought that Bungie had a bad day, at least they weren't Intel, who cut 15,000 jobs, which is about 15% of its existing workforce across the globe, to save $10 million for next year. This happened after Intel reported no profits from their last financial quarter whatsoever, despite being the biggest, of course, chip processor in the entire world. Essentially, when the pandemic was at its height, Intel's annual revenue was $24 billion higher than it is currently in the global environment, and over the same period of time, their workforce has grown by 10%. So that is probably why these cuts have happened. Still still sucks a lot. I just mentioned it because Intel is hugely important in the video game space. I don't necessarily think that this will have any major impacts on their supply chain, considering that they're essentially cutting what they've grown over the past 4 years as they're back down to pre-pandemic levels. And that's not just Intel, that's literally every business around the globe is kind of feeling that crunch of, 2020, 2021 were like the absurd heights, and now we're back down to like pre-COVID levels. But unfortunately, again, leadership spent money like it was going out of style during that time, and now that check is coming due for a lot of these companies. So just thought it was worth a mention. Again, really does suck for anyone who was caught up in that as well. So
Jesus.
And the last news story, and this is also going to hit me and Micah from a personal standpoint as well. Game Informer magazine is shutting its door, or has shut its doors, after 33 years in business. And of course, GameStop did the really shitty move where they basically just kind of, sly closed everything, where all of a sudden employees' email accounts didn't work, and all of a sudden the doors were locked and people couldn't come in. And then they put out a chat GPT generated announcement on social media to break the news to everybody.
Like if you like say it to my face, like have some balls.
Right.
At least it is quite literally the very least you could do if you're going to do something, because like, god damn, man.
I mean, the website's gone. Like if you go to GameInformer.com, it's a landing page for GameStop now, essentially.
Jesus.
So it closed super quickly. Game Informer was kind of the last of a dying breed. It was really the last game magazine standing, thanks in part to its strength being tied to the GameStop rewards program, of course, which sustained it probably longer than it absolutely should have. And they did really good work over there, man. Like they had a lot of great like every cover feature was excellent.
Man, I used to really like Game Informer, not just because like we worked at GameStop, but like you said, they had like they had beautiful covers,
Mhm.
right? Like all of their covers just are eye catching, right? And Game Informer was a big magazine, right? Like they had big pages, so it really stood out. And then their cover story was an actual like cover story. Game Informer felt like a damn newspaper,
Yeah.
in the most positive sense. And it was it was my favorite video game magazine, right? Like I'm thinking back to like, well, let me ask you, what video game magazine do you think has had the most impact in the zeitgeist overall?
Oh,
Like I
in
think,
the industry period,
yeah.
Nintendo Power.
Yeah, I could probably see that because, like, I remember that my first issue of Nintendo Power was that claymation Mario
Mhm.
with Bowser in the background, right? Like that's legendary, and I feel like there wouldn't be, you know, a bunch of video game magazines without it. Like it's
Hold your thought on that. Well, actually, let's creep into the post office, because Film Wander asks, as another gaming magazine dies in Game Informer, what was your favorite gaming magazine growing up? Now, even though I think Nintendo Power was the most influential magazine, I wouldn't say that it was my favorite overall growing up. I was a big GamePro guy when I was a kid. GamePro was the one for me that I subscribed to and loved reading. One of my favorite parts about GamePro was the fact that they covered systems that I never saw, like the 3DO and the Jaguar and stuff like that. So that it felt like kind of peering into a world that didn't actually exist when you
yeah,
were a kid, into that, to kind of get an insight onto like, oh, what's going on over here? Like, oh, Resident Evil, like this looks really interesting. And oh, Street Fighter the movie, the game, like, oh my god, like like look at these realistic sprite graphics on this system here. So I
They
enjoy GamePro
also
because it was the whole industry, as opposed to just like Nintendo Power, which obviously just covered Nintendo. Even though Nintendo Power is super memorable for all of its, the Nintendo classified section and like Nestor's notes, and they had the walkthroughs of the games and the magazine pages and stuff like that. Like, so all that stuff was very memorable for sure.
so in the EGM GamePro war, you were a GamePro
I
guy.
was a GamePro guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of a GamePro guy also. And look, GamePro even like GamePro's legacy has they coined the phrase pro tip
hmm Yeah,
and people still use it. Like people
that's
who
true.
don't have anything to do with video games, people who think video games are for nerds, right? They use pro tip, right? And they don't even know where they got it from. Um yeah, man, I was a GamePro guy, and then I kind of gravitated towards Game Informer just because Game Informer, like I said, was they had like actual articles that were
hmm
like that weren't like one like a half a page, one column. You know what I mean? And and it was the cover story. Like the cover story was like some actual like real journalism as opposed to like a bunch of previews and stuff. So yeah, man, I mean, look, it like you said, I'm surprised Game Informer lasted this long. Uh, it's just kind of the way that things are kind of
Yeah.
moving now. Like even major like sites that used to be focused heavily on video games and to branch out into other things, and it's kind of weird because like video games are the most they're the most popular that they have ever been in the
hmm
history of video games, and yet these sites still have to talk about like the new M. Night Shyamalan movie on
hmm
a site called GameSpot, right? Like it just is I don't know, man. It's just this industry is interesting, man.
Yeah. I mean, well, either that or you're seeing just like constant consolidation of sites
Yeah.
into into smaller units, or folding into one company or that sort of thing, so that you're like, we're used to have these specialty sites. You're not really getting that onus anymore as much. Like there's not, like, Rock Paper Shotgun used to be like a great site to go to for PC games. Now that they're owned by Ziff Davis, like they're kind of neutered and a facsimile of what they once were. Um yeah, and Game Informer especially, like they they had to kind of adapt more than anybody, because here they were, like, a magazine in the age of the internet, and they had a website, but that's not what they're known for. So they had to kind of gravitate towards longer form journalism, because you need to make sure that you have relevant content that's going into this monthly magazine that's coming out, that's going to be on GameStop store shelves. And again, for people that don't realize, like, oh, like, it was probably just an extra thing. Now, like, when me and Michael worked at GameStop, like, we were like that magazine was the value in that subscription. Like, yeah, of course you get a discount on your
Yeah.
games, but you also get 12 issues of this for $15. Like,
That's why you
that's
got it,
yeah, it's an unbeatable
Like,
fucking deal. So
right. Nobody you're not getting it so that your taxes are, only 1% as opposed to 6%. Yeah, right? Like you're getting it for that magazine, and it was worth it. Like it was the reason I kept it.
yeah,
Um yeah, man, that sucks, man.
yeah.
The end of an era.
I mean, very much so, because like I said, the like this is the official death of the video game magazine. Like, you're never going to see anything like that.
That
No.
magazine is older than Carrie, isn't
Yes. Well, maybe same year. Maybe same year as, as
All right,
Gary.
there you are. Yeah, yeah, Carrie just lost a twin sibling. Like it's like damn.
All right, well, let's take our last break, and then we'll be back with the rest of the post office for you guys. If you're not a member of our Discord, you should change that. And you can do that by going to densepixels.com/fans to join our Discord group, where you can post questions in the Dense Pixels post office, which we answer every single week from you, the listener. Starting with Cam, who says, is Dominic Mysterio officially in the top spot for Hater of the Year in the 2024 wrestling category?
Man, I wish I was uh they're able to call the SummerSlam card before it aired because I nailed like all but one of them. Um, and look, it's not a you know sometimes predictability is good,
Mhm.
right? Like if you're swerved for no fucking reason, then what the fuck? Like you can have sure, uh, Roman came out, but a swerve would have been like, I don't know, having Stone Cold Steve Austin come out. Like, all
Yeah.
right, that's cool, but like that doesn't make sense, right?
I mean,
Like,
they swerved me a little bit with the Arn Anderson with the Roman Reigns thing, just because like so Arn like when Cody was talking to Arn backstage, and Arn was like, "You got friends in high places." He put his one up in the sky. I'm like, oh, I was like, that's an obvious Roman Reigns telegraph. But then like my logic brain started working, which is if you're a pro wrestling fan, like just put that shit out of your mind. Like don't try to logicize anything. My logic brain was like, well, why would Arn Anderson have Roman Reigns' phone number? Like Arn Anderson's not calling Roman Reigns. Like, so who the fuck is Arn Anderson calling? Like is Ricky Starks gonna like pop up here all of a sudden? Like is fucking Dustin Rhodes gonna come out like in his gold dust attire so that they have plausible deniability? Like to come like what's gonna happen here? Like who could it be if not Roman? And of course it was Roman. That's the thing. I gotta tell you though, like talking about the Dom Rhea Liv Morgan thing, I really have enjoyed watching this story kind of unfold. Raw's going on right now as we're recording this. I haven't seen what if Dom and Liv have come out yet, and what Dom's explanation is, if he can get a word in edgewise over the Baltimore crowd that is sure to be booing him like crazy.
oh, they in Baltimore
They
today?
are in Baltimore tonight, yeah.
Boo! Boo! All right.
But no, it was a good card. A lot of title changes, and again, like sometimes to your point, like just because something is predictable doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do, as we talk about all the time in the wrestling business. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes the story that makes sense is the right story to go with.
Yeah. It's fine. And then you can pretend to be a big shot and be like, I nailed it. I'm a genius. I could book a wrestling promotion. And then,
And again, actually, to talk about CM Punk, look, WWE figured it out. AEW couldn't. Like, hey, this dude's in his late 40s, hasn't really wrestled a lot full time in the last decade. Maybe don't make him do too much. Maybe don't have him
Yeah.
carry the heavy load during the match, and then he'll look like $1 million because you're having him work within his abilities, his current abilities. Right?
Yeah, man. Guys, yeah, like you said, the guy's in his like mid to late 40s, yo.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man.
Like
I don't know.
let the young guys, the younger guys, like shoulder the load in the match a little bit, and have matches and have a match with him that tells a story as opposed to like an overly physical,
Yeah, man.
ordeal.
That guy's talent has look, I'm not a huge CM Punk fan. That guy's talent has always been his mouth and being able to like relay messages to the crowd, right? Like and he can't and he's not horrible in the ring. So like you said, like you gotta that's part of being a good booker, man. You gotta know how to use people and when to use them. It's not just like, yo, put these spikes on your Jordans and kick somebody in the head after doing a fucking trampoline flip or whatever, right? Like it's a little more to it than that.
Yeah. So, Mad Coco G says he has two questions. Will everyone here that is a former GameStop employee, including myself, have an ice cold glass of their favorite beverage for when GameStop finally goes belly up? Well, on the first question first. I mean, it's like I'm not going to celebrate on GameStop's grave. Like they were very good to me for 11 years, and I enjoyed the people that I worked for, and I enjoyed the job that I was doing, and I don't want them to necessarily have to go away.
Yeah,
But
it's the customers, yo.
yeah, but no, I mean, and I mean, I don't like their leadership certainly right now. Like anyone who's heard me talk about Ryan Cohen in the past knows my feelings on him specifically. And I think it's a shame that the company has maneuvered themselves into a position that they have just been, grasping at straws for, half a decade now at this point. But I mean, I don't think it's good for the gaming industry to have a company like GameStop go away. So
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not gonna, go on this diatribe about Bungie laying people off and then be like, "Yay, GameStop is unemploying people because they're out of business,"
right.
right? Like, I'm not gonna do that. Um, yeah, I like GameStop, man. I had a good time there. It was basically hanging out with my friends, right? I met a bunch of people that I actually really like. I consider Brad a really, really good friend, man. Like, and I wouldn't. I Brad was at my wedding. Like, if
Yeah.
you're at my wedding, like, we're cool. We are fucking
In
cool.
your wedding, even not just at your
Yeah,
wedding.
he was in my wedding. Yeah, he was one of my groomsmen. Like, not just there. Like he was standing next to me and during the happiest moment of my life, man. And I met that guy through GameStop. So I'm not gonna and I used to hang out there with my friends and stuff. Now look, I always was a part-time worker because like I was not trying to put up with the bullshit of like having to like Brad is way better at that shit than I am. But yeah, I'm not gonna celebrate it when it finally does end. I'm gonna be sad, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be sad.
Again, like we kind of we get lost in our ivory tower a little bit, and by we I mean the royal we, including those of us listening to this podcast. I don't think that folks that didn't work at GameStop have an appreciation for how behind the industry times a lot of people are who play video games that don't necessarily aren't going to be able to download, just easily go onto the PlayStation Store and download you know whatever game they want to whenever they want to. Like, they rely on trade-ins, they rely on having used games available and stuff like that. So like, yeah, when they go away, that's going to be a rough time for a lot of folks, and it's going to have a net negative impact on the game industry. Now, that the impact of that lessens as year by year, but it's still going to exist in some way, shape, or form. The second question is, with pro wrestling being as popular as it is today and ignoring the failure of the AEW game, will another studio take a shot to relive the glory days of the Def Jam Aki game? I don't think so.
I don't know. I played that game. It was on PlayStation Plus, and
Mhm.
and I downloaded it and I played it and then I deleted it because it's not polished, man. Like, it's not. One of the big things about wrestling is all the pomp and circumstance, right? And even in the video games, right? Like, meticulously get those entrances, which, to be fair, you end up skipping, right?
Mhm.
But I do actually want to see it. Sometimes I might not want to skip it, right? And like, I remember picking MJF, and this one guy came out that, like, if you squint, kind of looked like MJF a little bit, and came out and he kissed his ring, and then the screen went black, and then bam, you in the ring. I'm like, God damn, like it just that game is not polished. And while that engine is very fun, it's not so fun that you can overlook um a bunch of, like, you can't that is not enough to polish a turd.
Mhm.
And this is not me like shitting on AEW. I actually watch AEW pretty much every week. I just don't pay for their pay-per-views because, like, fuck that. But um but it's just not a polished product. It's not a polished product, and they keep like adding to the eh, instead of trying to polish the product, right? Like, remember that one year that I don't play any 2K game,
Mhm.
the WWE 2K game. I just don't like the way those games play. But, like, to their credit, that one year that it came out and it was fucking dog shit, right? Like, it was horrifying that a game came out like that. They rebound and they created one of the better games in that franchise.
And have continued to do so to this day. Like they're on
Right.
an upward trajectory.
Right. Like, AEW, the game is not doing that. It's weird. It's a parallel to the actual product, in my opinion. It kind of hit its ceiling, and it will appeal to a certain class of people. It just won't break the mainstream. And if they're fine, like, if AEW is fine being the Nintendo of wrestling promotions, then that's all good. But I don't know, man. Like, I just don't know how. I just don't know how you sustain that business. I get how Nintendo does it because, like, every once in a while they put out they put out a game that one tugs on your nostalgia,
Mhm.
and two is a masterclass in what gaming is. But and AEW does that maybe once a year.
Well, that's kind of
And
the other side of the coin too, right? Is that the WWE games aren't selling because of the gameplay of the WWE games. They're selling because it's WWE. Because they
because of the
have all the
product.
current wrestlers, they have all the
Right.
legend wrestlers like in the
Right.
game that you can play as. And again, WWE has gone out of their way for pretty much the entirety of their existence as like from the 80s onward to make sure that kids are as part of the experience and are being catered to as much as they possibly can, because they know that kids will drag their parents out to events, and kids will make their parents buy them the t-shirts that they want to wear. And by the way, kids also get their parents to buy them video games as well. And I don't know
Yeah,
too many
man.
kids that are out there like, oh mommy, like get me AEW Fight Forever, like I really want to play that. Like, no, they want the game with Cody Rhodes or John Cena on the. That's what they want.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I don't think you're gonna find people delve into that too much. I think what you may see is someone try to approach WWE to make like another WWE All Stars or something like that, right? Like maybe like see if they can work out something with 2K to be like, hey, like can we develop this? You guys can publish it, and to be like the alternative WWE game that comes out like that you might see, but no, I don't think you're gonna see a lot of people like take a crack at the pro wrestling business.
Yeah, and not with that engine. Like I said, that there's a reason why that engine hasn't been used in, you know, 20 years.
Yeah.
It's just the way technology has just kind of advanced, right? Like, I get it. Like, you have fond memories of it, but at the same time, like, go back and play it. Go play Fight Forever. Like, the shit moves like molasses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a little different.
Finally, T Wash says, and I feel like this question's come across before, but I thought of a good one, so I'm happy to answer it again. What movie franchise would make an excellent video game? I think Rush Hour would be a fun action adventure game. I can see Rush Hour as like a shitty like PS1 3D platformer. Like I'm surprised we didn't get a Rush Hour game, quite honestly, in that era. I think that if you were to put Blade Runner in like the Bethesda engine and have it be a combination of like a third or first person shooter, but also like a narrative adventure game of sorts, and like where you have to like solve mysteries and stuff like that, I think that could be potentially a very cool movie to interpret in game form.
Isn't that kind of what that Cyberpunk game is? Not Cyberpunk. There's a game. Let me see if I can find it. There's a game out that I was thinking about getting
Oh, is it called
because it's
like
only like
Nobody Wants to Die or something like that?
yeah, yeah. Is that kind of what
The
that is?
setting is, but again, like having the Blade Runner like accoutrement, like replicants and stuff like that, I think would be like being a Blade Runner and potentially like trying to solve these mysteries, but also getting into like shootouts in the LA streets and stuff like that. I think could make for a potentially interesting game series. And there's a lot of room to play with because the Blade Runner franchise like covers a broad period of time. So like there's a lot of different things you could do with that.
I don't know, man. I feel like every major movie franchise has a video game, except for maybe Rush Hour. I'm trying to think of some. I'm looking at franchises and I'm trying to see if there's anything that kind of pops out. But like like I like we've come so far. We've come full circle that like video games are the subject of movies in this list,
Mhm.
right? Like it's a Persia and uh,
Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed and Silent Hill. You know what I
You think we're
mean?
ever getting that Assassin's Creed sequel?
Oh God, no. I can only hope not.
This is Michael
And
Fassbender's magnum opus. What are you talking about?
if we do, it'll be a hard reboot, just like and they'll just drop all the out of animus stuff, just like the games did. Like, oh shit, people just want to see period pieces and like play in certain time periods. Like, let's just do that. I don't know why they didn't do that to begin with, but okay. Yeah, man. Literally every franchise that I'm seeing um it has a video game component. That's like major, right? Like I'm not talking about like maybe the Hunger Games. How about that? The Hunger Games. I think you could do something
the
with
battle royale concept is just out there for you, just waiting.
that. Yeah, there it is. It's already there. Uh,
There you go.
yeah, there's already an Avatar game. I'm shocked there aren't Despicable Me games. If there are, I don't know of them.
Oh, I'm
Thank
pretty
God.
sure there was some DS games that came out in the Despicable Me franchise. Like Despicable Me for the Nintendo DS has THQ written all over it. Like if that game came out and was published by THQ, like that it would be the least surprising thing of all time, essentially. So that has
So
to
there you go. There you go. The Hunger Games. Or if you're a horror snob, the battle royale, the thing that the actual fucking genre is named after. The Japanese film from the late 2000s, I
yeah,
guess.
real bullet dodge in that one. I'm glad that genre of game wasn't called like a Hunger Games like or something stupid.
Oh yeah.
Thank God video game developers are fans of potentially obscure Japanese cinema. So
Yeah. 2000. Came out in 2000. That
there you
game
go.
was yeah, that movie was pretty fucking dope. And do it just like I haven't played a battle royale in a long time, but like make a battle royale a, a battle royale themed battle royale. And like, yeah, like it's a crapshoot as to what you get, right? Like somebody in that movie got like a frying pan and someone got like a paper airplane or some shit. Like, and you just gotta make do, right? Like, yeah.
It
Do
would
it.
like one thing I could see that would be a cool concept for that game specifically if you're theming off of that is just the kind of like force players into temporary alliances.
Mhm.
Try to find gameplay reasons to incentivize players to work together for a limited period of time and then
Yeah.
kind of go from there. So
Yeah. There you go.
yep.
I kind of want to see it now.
So thank you guys for your questions again. Densepixel.com/fans to join the Discord. If you're listening to us via podcast, don't forget we also do this show via YouTube, and you can check that out by going to youtube.com/densepixels. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to this show on your podcast app of choice, including all the other TNP Studio shows. And you can sign up for TNP premium content for just $5 a month by going to densepixels.com/premium, which gets you access to our premium slate of shows, which I'm telling you, if you're in the US, you will want to make sure that you have access to premium for the next 3 months at least as we barrel towards election day, because look forward, it has been off the chain literally every single week with all of the news going on around the political space. Micah, is Kamala Harris black? Who could say? Who could possibly say?
Apparently she just turned black. She just turned black. I didn't know. I didn't know she was always in it. No, she wasn't. Quite frankly, I forget that she's biracial. That's how black she is. That's how much black energy she is giving off. I forgot that she was biracial. The name doesn't even give it away. Like it just not for me. So yeah, look, look forward is worth it on its own. Because the last couple episodes, there was a shadow drop this morning. I was
Mhm.
working out. I was like, oh shit. Like it's not fucking Wednesday or whatever the hell Jay decides to edit the show. And I listened to it while I was working out this morning and look, It's really good, man. Those guys, they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about, and they're funny delivering the news. Um, Also, yeah, man, like politics is. I'm not into politics, but I'm in it enough to want to actively listen to that show. And yeah, man, y'all are funny, man, and it's good. It's really fucking good.
Well, there you go. A ringing endorsement from Micah. That's it for the show this week. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll see you all the next time.
See ya.
You're watching the Dense Pixels YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're here and make sure you check out our weekly podcast where we discuss the latest gaming news and our impressions on what games we've been playing.